Planet X. The Navy says the Great Lakes will merge. Welcome to Mystery Focus YouTube channel. Please subscribe and share if you enjoy this show. To be underwater coastal areas up to a couple hundred feet above sea level, because well, we have the major Great Lakes, you know. It says, well, I didn't talk about the Great Lakes. Here's what the Navy says about the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes will merge to become one Great Lake. The state of Wisconsin will be part of it. By the way, state of Wisconsin, we basically underwater, and this Great Lake will be all extended all the way up to Hudson Bay, creating a new inland sea. So I don't know if you're familiar with Buffalo in the Rochester area, so those would basically they'd be underwater then most likely. Oh, that's pretty heavy. So you think about that genitive and about a new address. Maybe actually yes, I've been thinking about it. I get a lot of calls on my shows from New Yorkers that are getting out of Dodge, you know. Other Barna, you know, if you're in the Catskill Mountains and so forth, you know, you probably be okay as far as water, but there's other considerations. The main one being millions of refugees escaping these low-lying areas, right? And then it would probably be an island, the Catskills. They may very well be. The maps of Word that we review doesn't show that happening, but there's going to be. These maps are not perfect, by the way. They're based on the best evidence we've got. But do you overestimate or do you underestimate? Well, I take a Navy at their word, and they basically drew lines based on where they believe the new water levels are going to be up to. There's two parts to this water, by the way. Michael and Jimmy, there's going to be what with a technical term is slush. There'll be a slush possibly hundreds of feet high that would inundate areas for just a day or two. Then there's going to be their ocean levels, which won't be as high as the slush, okay? So around the new ocean levels, and the land will be unlivable. Well, here's what you need to think about: broken infrastructure, no potable water, millions of refugees in some parts of the areas of the East Coast is fairly densely populated. From Washington, D.C. to Boston is basically one big city, yes, with tens of millions of people. Many of those millions will have time to figure out what's going on and get out of Dodge and become refugees. It would not be a pretty sight. I know that New York State has, the last I knew a couple of years ago, it was like 5% a year. The population was leaving, and it's probably got higher than that now. Well, the people lately leaving tend to be better educated and wealthier as well, yeah, because people those people are still in New York, can't afford to move. Well, they want to build a little boat, not move count, you know, not move comfortably, you know. It's things can be done if you're willing to put up with some discomfort. So yeah, so New York's not going to be in good shape when this happens. New York City will be wiped out. New York State, upstate, in the higher regions, the real estate will be okay, but you've got a lot of refugees, you know, in that densely populated area. And upstate New York is about as densely populated as where I live. But you're not that, you're less than a tank full of gas from millions of people. Yeah, that's for sure. So that answer your questions, Genevieve, or do you have more? No, I didn't order. Okay. I have one more. Oh my God, we're okay. Where did you say that the naval people are going? They're going to the Arkansas-Missouri Ozarks, which is the southern half of Missouri and the northern half of Arkansas. You do. If you do a Wikipedia search on Missouri Ozarks, you'll get a nice little map that can show you the whole region. Just put Ozarks in Wikipedia and you get a real nice map in about 2 seconds. Okay, great, yes, a lot. Do that, Genevieve, and send me an email and tell me what you find it. Okay. Alright, thank you very much for calling. Good night, you too. Thank you. Okay, bye bye. So that was a hello Genevieve from New York State, and she a little worried, and then good reason to be, and it's good to see that people will take this serious. I know I do. I know something's coming, and I believe 100%, and I don't know what my future holds here. And I, like you, say, you know, the whole East Coast, and I'm on that East Coast, and alright, might not be a good place to stick around in the very near future. Well, the Navy veterans have made their choice. I teach concealed carry training, Michael, in every class between August of '08 and January of '09. I had at least one veteran that had personal knowledge because of these briefings. Well, that's good enough reason for me. Let me tell you so. Okay, I have another caller here, so I will take one more call. And 803 area code, you are on late night in the Midlands. Oh, hello, Amina, you are? Hey, I just wanted to ask a question about that rock sea level that you're talking about, or Cornwall, England, right? Yes. Do you think the water level will come up 100 miles inland? What I think doesn't matter, sir. The US Navy says yes, because I live in Columbia, South Carolina, somewhere next to the radio show. You know, we have this area called the Sand Hills where obviously the water was up this far at one time. I'm just worried that it'll happen again. Well, it's kind of funny you mention it. If you flying in a small plane over the Missouri Valley River, you can see where the water used to be. It's real clear where the water used to be at one time, even though, and you can do a Google is something called Google Earth, and it will allow you to find the elevation above sea level of any place on the planet real quick, real easy. You know, if you're 200 feet above sea level or lower, you're pretty much toast. That's crazy. They think about it, because we're about 150 miles from the coast. Well, if it's not the distance from the water, it's how high above it you are. You could be right next to the ocean, but if you're 1,000 feet above sea level, you're probably going to be okay. You're good at one. That's just crazy. You can't even fathom that thought, or I can't, but oh no, it happened before, and it's certainly no doubt that as in fact a friend of mine went out west. So you know, these big flat-topped mesas out west. He found he found seashells laying on top, just laying there. Wow, and you know they haven't been laying there for millions of years. Anybody could do this. You can fly out that tomorrow, climb the top of Mason, or seashells laying around just waiting to be picked up. Well, that's not a sign of what's to come. Then I don't know what is. They didn't fly there, no they didn't fly there, and they haven't been laying there in the wind and the sand blowing for millions of years. That's at the fantasy sea, so bothers me. There's evidence here already saying it's already happened before. That's what bothers me. There's a series of book written by Dr. Valor Game of 1950s and early 60s about these events, and what he did was travel around the planet and make personal observations. What you're talking about, sir, because the evidence is all over the planet to be observed even now. Are there going to be global earthquakes, or it's just going to be where there's actually fault lines, or these fault lines just going to spread rapidly? Well, we funny should mention it, because the one that happened in the end was in Indonesia 4 years ago. 5 years ago now. They have measuring devices in wells in Missouri where ILO and the water levels went up and down because that earthquake on the other side of the planet. Now granted, that's a tiny effect, but these earthquakes do shake the whole planet when they're bad enough. Yeah, didn't we have the one that caused the tsunami a few years back? Didn't that actually, they said, tilted the Earth on its axis? It built to change our rotation by a fraction of a minute, and it did change that, the tilt of the Earth, by just a fraction of a degree, and just a little bit like that can cause all kinds of Hamlet Kenner. Well, that little bit didn't hurt us too bad. If it was several degrees, it would hurt a lot because it disrupted that water. It would be a massive problem, and then that's what we're looking at, and I'm not too distant future. Okay. So Billy, do you have any other questions, or do you read it now? I'm going to hide in my closet, man, because there's just too much scientific evidence that makes everything truth that scares me. Well, I don't think it hiding in your closet is going to help. Well, I think he's being a bit here at ease with us here and facetious. But it might be prudent to start looking at what you can do to protect your family. Yeah. I didn't have a family, I wouldn't worry about it, I just go with it. That's what bothers me. You know, I felt that when I was a young man before my daughter was born. I pretty much felt the same way, but when you got the responsibility you think differently. Exactly. All right, man, I appreciate. Thank you for taking my phone call. Okay, you're welcome, and thank you for calling late night in the Midlands. Alright. Yeah, so people are concerned, and I know that guys that I work with, we talk about this stuff all the time, and you get to see how the storm patterns have changed, and I mean they've gotten stronger, and a lot of stuff that's happening so much more frequent than it has in the past. I know as a kid growing up, I don't remember so many tragic family like your New Orleans and the tsunamis and so many earthquakes. It seems like to just rapidly growing. Well, They are the number and severity of earthquakes has increased dramatically. Dr. Robert Richter developed the Richter scale, and when he died shortly after his death in 1984-1985 they changed the Richter scale by one full number of value downwards, so what would be a 6-point earthquake in 1983 would now be a 5-point earthquake. They knew what was coming in the future, and that was one of the part of the deception was the change in Richter scale. It's too bad that there is so much deception and there's so much that they hide from us. And I even not to change the subject any, but I even think with life on other planets and things of that nature, I think they know more about that than they tell us. It's too bad. They expect me to trust them in office, and they can't be truthful with us, and it's a shame. Well, the first thing I asked my audience, Michael, in a live presentation, I asked the following question: would federal government of the United States of America lie to us? Absolutely, of course they would. And then everybody laughs and chuckles and answer head, yes, of course I would. They do. Oh yeah. They've been doing it for decades. Yeah, they do. It's all about their own agendas, and that's where it lays. So it's pretty much every man for himself, so everyone should prepare themselves. Absolutely. And if nothing did happen, then be thankful to God. But if it does happen, you want to be prepared, and well, we are going to be preparing the type of insurance that in a more stationary, you consume the food. It's not all that bad to get prepared. Acquiring new skills and storing up food is not a bad thing. No, it's definitely not. So well, we're just about out of time, so I want to thank you so much for joining me on Late Night in the Midlands tonight, and I am going to send that email to you, and yes, I will, and give me your links and I'll get them up on my website and I'll keep them there, and I hope that we could plan another show in the near future, but could maybe take a little longer next time. Let's do that. I'm pretty involved, okay, and I appreciate it to you. Have a great night, okay. Good night. Thank to you for listening the first hour of Late Night in the Midlands. To finish listening to this episode, go to LNM Radio Network and become a subscriber. Becoming a subscriber is easy. There is a link on every page to take you to the subscription page. The cost is low and you would be supporting Late Night in the Midlands. Low-lying areas, right, and then it would probably be an island, the Catskills. They may very well be. The maps of Word that we review doesn't show that happening, but there's going to be. These maps are not perfect, by the way. They're based on the best evidence we've got. But do you overestimate or do you underestimate? Well, I take a Navy at their word, and they basically drew lines based on where they believe the new water levels are going to be up to. There's two parts to this water, by the way. Michael and Planet X. The Navy says the Great Lakes will merge. Welcome to Mystery Focus YouTube channel. Please subscribe and share if you enjoy this show. To be underwater coastal areas up to a couple hundred feet above sea level. Jimmy, there's going to be what with the technical term is slush. There'll be a slush possibly hundreds of feet high that would inundate areas for just a day or two. Then there's going to be ocean levels which won't be as high as the slush, okay? So around the new ocean levels, and then the land will be unlivable. Well, here's what you need to think about: broken infrastructure, no potable water, millions of refugees in some parts of the areas of the East Coast is fairly devil because, well, we have the major Great Lakes. It says, well, I didn't talk about the Great Lakes. Here's what the Navy says about the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes will merge to become one Great Lake. The state of Wisconsin will be part of it. By the way, state of Wisconsin, we basically underwater, and this Great Lake will be all extended all the way up to Hudson Bay, creating a new inland sea. So I don't know if you're familiar with Buffalo in the Rochester area, so those would they'd be underwater then most likely. Oh, that's pretty heavy. So you think about that genitive and about a new address. Maybe actually yes, I've been thinking about it. I get a lot of calls on my shows from New Yorkers that are getting out of Dodge, you know. Other Barna, you know, if you're in the Catskill Mountains and so forth, you know, you probably be okay as far as water, but there's other considerations. The main one being millions of refugees escaping these